Your best performance ever felt like you weren't even trying. That's the part nobody talks about. The moment you were sharpest, fastest, most creative, you weren't grinding. You were gone. Absorbed so completely that time bent around you, and then something pulled you out. A buzz in your pocket, a thought about tomorrow, your own voice whispering, "Am I doing this right?" That whisper cost you everything. Mihály Csíkszentmihályi spent decades studying painters, musicians, surgeons, and rock climbers. He kept hearing the same description. They talked about being carried, like floating in a current. He called it flow. And his most surprising finding had nothing to do with elite performers. Flow showed up more often during work than during leisure. The people experiencing peak mental states were doing it at their desks, in their workshops, on ordinary Tuesday afternoons. Vacations, weekends, free time, those scored lower. The reason cuts deep. Free time has no structure, no clear goal, no feedback, no challenge calibrated to your ability. Your brain needs all three to lock in. And when it does lock in, the machinery is staggering. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for self-doubt, time awareness, and that relentless inner critic, powers down. Neuroscientists call this transient hypofrontality. The voice that says, "You're going to mess this up," goes quiet. Your brain shifts into gamma waves, fast synchronizing frequencies that let distant regions communicate like they're in the same room. The default mode network, your mind's wandering engine, shuts off, and your neurochemistry floods with 5 compounds at once: norepinephrine, dopamine, endorphins, anandamide, serotonin. 5. Simultaneously. No other mental state does that. Flow feels like a drug, because at the molecular level, it functions like one. A McKinsey study spanning 10 years found that top executives reported being up to 500% more productive in flow. 500. But those same executives spent less than 5% of their working hours there. The math is almost painful. If that number climbed to even 15 or 20%, overall productivity would nearly double. Most people are sitting on an engine they've used maybe twice and forgot they own. But you have used it. That's the part worth sitting with. Remember a video game that swallowed 4 hours before you looked up. Your hands knew what to do before your conscious mind caught up. Or a conversation so absorbing you missed your bus stop. Maybe a run where your legs carried you and the distance just happened. A night cooking where every pan hit the burner at the right second and the whole kitchen moved like choreography you hadn't rehearsed. That was flow. You were there. Go further back. Childhood. Building a fort out of couch cushions, drawing for hours on the living room floor, making up worlds with rules only you understood. A child at play is a child in flow, effortlessly. No one taught you how. Your brain came wired for it. So what broke? School compartmentalized your attention into 45-minute blocks. Bells trained you to stop mid-thought. Grades replaced the raw satisfaction of figuring something out with anxiety about how someone else would score it. Recess shrank. Homework grew. And then, somewhere in adolescence, self-consciousness arrived like an uninvited guest who never left. That guest is the single biggest flow killer. Bigger than your phone, bigger than your open tabs. In 2024, cognitive neuroscientists John Kunios and David Rosen ran EEG scans on 32 jazz guitarists during improvisation. The musicians, deepest in flow, showed less frontal lobe activity. Their brains had handed control to hearing and motor regions. Conscious monitoring, the part that checks "how am I doing," had stepped aside. Expertise took the wheel. The moment you notice you're performing well, the spell breaks. Your prefrontal cortex reactivates. Self-monitoring floods back in. The 5 chemical cocktail drains. You're standing outside the current, watching it pass. This is why Michael Jordan threw his hands up after hitting 7 three-pointers in a row against Portland in the '92 finals. 35 points in the first half. His own explanation afterward: "I can't explain it." He couldn't. because explaining requires the exact brain region that has to shut down for the performance to happen. And modern life is a machine designed to trigger that brain region every few seconds. A 2024 study found that interruptions as short as 2.8 seconds, the time it takes to glance at a notification, disrupted concentration and increased errors. After each interruption, it takes an average of 25 minutes to return to full depth. 25 minutes for a glance that lasted less than 3 seconds. People who primarily consume short-form content show a 27% reduction in sustained attention during tasks. Your brain adapts to whatever you train it on. Feed it 15-second clips, and anything requiring a full minute starts to feel unbearable. But the external interruptions are the easy diagnosis. The harder one lives inside your skull. Fragmented thinking, self-criticism, future worry, rehearsing conversations that haven't happened, disrupts flow more reliably than any notification. You can put your phone in another room. You can't put your inner monologue in another room. It follows you into every task, commenting, judging, projecting. So how do you quiet it? You don't fight it directly. You build conditions where it has no room to operate. Clear goals give the brain a target to lock onto, leaving less bandwidth for wandering. Immediate feedback, seeing results as you work, keeps attention anchored in the present action. And the challenge has to sit in a specific window, roughly 4% beyond your current skill level. Too easy and your mind drifts. Too hard and anxiety floods in. The sweet spot is the edge of your competence, where you're stretching, but the stretch feels possible. 90-minute work blocks match your brain's natural ultradian rhythm. Physical movement before deep work, a walk, stretching, even a few minutes of deliberate breathing, primes the body into calm alertness. Music without lyrics reduces verbal interference. And the single most effective environmental change, according to the research, remove the phone from the room entirely. Silent mode isn't enough. Your brain knows it's there. Here's what makes this different from standard productivity advice. Flow compounds. Every session of deep absorption strengthens the neural pathways that make the next session easier to enter. You're training your brain's ability to let go of self-monitoring, the same way a musician trains scales. The jazz guitarists in the Cuneo study didn't start with quiet prefrontal cortices. They built that through thousands of hours of practice, where they repeatedly allowed conscious control to release. You've already met the version of yourself that operates at full capacity. You met them building couch forts. You met them during that run, that conversation, that night in the kitchen, where everything clicked. The work ahead isn't becoming someone new. The work is dismantling what you've stacked on top of a system that already worked. The notifications, the self-doubt, the fractured attention you've mistaken for normal. Your brain is still wired for the current. The current is still there. You just have to stop standing on the bank, checking your phone, and wondering if the water is deep enough. Walk in.